You know, I didn't realize this until I was kind of getting this in my last video I did together, but this is actually my 50th episode of I Want to Talk About. If I had one of those party blower things, I'd do the kind of crazy. I mean, it's only been like 2 years and I've already done 50 episodes in this series. That's pretty crazy. And even though I've had this video idea in the bag for months now and the script's been done for like a week or two, it's actually kind of fitting that I'm filming this video when I am, Saturday, February 15th, in case the video goes up way late, because baseball is just about back. With the end of football season, it's now baseball's turn. Spring training's happening and, players are reporting back, so baseball season's upon us. And even though I'm nowhere near as much of a football fan as I am a baseball fan, the Eagles are Super Bowl champs! Go Birds! Yes, I did change to the one Eagles shirt that I have, and I'm keeping it on for the rest of the video. Screw it. And in case anyone's wondering, I am not much of a parade type myself, so I didn't end up going to the parade, but I'm gonna assume that everything went well, and despite the city's best efforts and all the grease in the world, someone probably still climbed a pole. They're gonna have to start using like rubber cement or Gorilla Glue at this point, and even then I don't think that would stop people. Either way, welcome back to I Want to Talk About, the series where I take a topic, I sit on camera, and I blabber about it. And again, this is the first video I'm doing in this series about baseball, which might be a little bit out there for some of you guys. A lot of you know me for either music or video games or both. Or maybe some of you guys remember when I did movie reviews. Yeah, Pepperidge Farm remembers. So, given that this is my first baseball-related video, I know some things might be a little weird, there might be some differences here and there. If there are things I can improve, then obviously please let me know in the comments below. But again, the series is called I Want to Talk About, so if I want to talk about it, I'm gonna do it. And this is something or someone that I wanted to talk about, so as you can tell from the title, today I want to talk about Philadelphia Phillies pitcher Zack Wheeler. Zack Wheeler, as again you may know if you're following baseball, is a Major League Baseball pitcher, currently pitching, like I said, for the Philadelphia Phillies. You may know him as one of the best pitchers in the game, but the journey that he's been on has been a pretty fascinating one. Part of why I wanted to talk about him and I wanted to make a video is because I not only want to look through his career and all the ups and downs that he's faced, but also because I kind of feel like I owe him an apology. I mean, it's not like he's going to see this video, so it's not really going to matter, but you get the point. So I'm going to go into the early part of his career as well, too, but I'm not going to do the whole he was destined for greatness thing that a lot of people do in these intros. I'm just going to kind of give you the basics. So Wheeler grew up in Smyrna, Georgia, and it so happened that damn near his entire family had some connection to baseball. His dad played amateur softball for 15 years, his mom played competitive softball, and both of his brothers played baseball, one of whom was actually even in the Yankees minor league system at a point. How about that? So Wheels was around baseball for a lot of his life, and to the surprise of everyone else around him, chose to play baseball. I mean, who would have thought? Wheeler, though, was astoundingly good when he played in high school ball, and even though he had already committed to playing college ball at Kennesaw State, he ended up putting those commitments to the side because he was drafted 6th overall by the San Francisco Giants in 2009. Because on a team that already had Tim Lincecum and Matt Cain at the top, Madison Bumgarner waiting in the wings, and could randomly coax good seasons out of Jonathan Sanchez, Ryan Vogelsong, Tim Hudson, and apparently half a season of an over-the-hill Jake Peavy, you could never have enough pitching. They were really mad about how that Barry Zito contract went, and they just wanted to get revenge on themselves. So Wheeler chose to sign with the Giants, and he continued to shoot up the prospect rankings, even though some of his early minor league numbers weren't exactly, like, eye-poppingly good. But the Giants actually quickly moved on from him because they traded him to the New York Mets in 2011 in the deal that landed them perennial all-star outfielder and apparent trash can banging ringleader Carlos Beltran. Because the Giants remembered that while pitching is great, you actually have to hit the ball and score runs to win games. And honestly, I don't know if the Giants necessarily won this deal, given that Beltran, while good, was only there for half a season and Wheeler was with the Mets for much longer, but come on, the Giants won 2 World Series rings, including the year after they traded Wheeler. I think they turned out fine without him. Now, the team that did get Wheeler, the Mets, was definitely better with him, but not immediately. He continued to develop in the minors until he made his major league debut in 2013, where he actually adjusted pretty nicely to the big league spotlight. No, he wasn't an ace just yet, but putting up a combined 3.50 ERA across 2013 and 2014 as a 23 to 24-year-old pointed to a very bright future. And indeed, within the next few years, Wheeler was one piece of what would be dubbed the Big Five starting rotation. A pitching staff that beyond Wheeler included Batman, Thor, the Terminator, and the other guy. And the other guy, Andre the Giant, but he was much shorter for some reason. Either way, it looked like the Mets were building a killer rotation, but as Mets fans know good and well, it's never easy being a Mets fan. And look, I know what you're thinking, that as a Phillies fan, I'm gonna try to do some rivalry shit, but honestly, I don't even really like sports rivalries. I think they get too toxic, and I could probably even make a whole video about my issues with sports rivalries, which I have wanted to do at points, but I don't know if I'm actually going to. Either way, Mets fans know good and well that being a Mets fan is torture. I sometimes say that despite the rivalry, Phillies and Mets fans have more in common than we think because we've both been put through our own levels of torment and misery. You know how they say that God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers? I guess he's talking about Phillies fans and Mets fans because God, we've both been through some shit. And in the case of the Mets, the Big Five broke down fairly quickly. I mean, despite being dubbed the Big Five by around 2016, it wasn't until 2018 that all of them actually took a turn around the rotation, as injuries and other such things took them out of it. I mean, ignoring Bartolo for a minute, because he was too busy hitting home runs, hustling, being baseball fans' wet dreams, and living a double life. The rest of the rotation ran into its own troubles. Matt Harvey ran into a bevy of injuries and also happened to be a bit of a hurricane in human form. Seriously, the story of Matt Harvey off the field, dear Christ, you could write a book about it. Noah Syndergaard was a shining star that burned out a little too fast, thanks again in no small part to a few injuries of his own. Jacob deGrom was the one who lasted the longest on the Mets and obviously was a generationally incredible pitcher. One that I would honestly say is one of the greatest I've ever seen in my baseball watching lifetime. But he started to become the guy from SpongeBob who yells, "My leg!" And he had that indescribable run cut short far too soon, though I really hope he bounces back this year with the Rangers. And as for Steven Matz, I mean, injuries didn't screw him in the same way as the others, but he just never quite became the guy the Mets were hoping for when he was like a top 10 to 20 prospect in baseball before 2016. But he got a bag from the Cardinals, so there's that. And as for the man of the hour, the man of this video, Zack Wheeler, he didn't even get a chance to pitch for a few seasons because a torn UCL required Tommy John surgery. So he'd end up missing all of 2015 and eventually all of 2016 because of some setbacks. It was a little extra sad because 2015 was the year that the Mets got to go to the World Series, and Zach was basically told that he wouldn't be allowed to be in the dugout with his teammates during their playoff run. It appears he was also told that if he wanted to sit in the stands for any of the games, he would actually have to pay for the tickets on his own. His own team basically wouldn't let him be there to watch his team play in the World Series. Mets fans, from a Phillies fan, I am so sorry for the shit you had to put up with under the Wilpons. I mean, the more I learn about it, the more incompetent it seems. It's wow, the Wilpons. The fact that you guys have Steve Cohen now, you are in the lap of luxury compared to what the Wilpons were doing. Nevertheless, Wheeler clawed his way back to the mound in 2017, despite having a rough go at it that year. He actually impressed in 2018 and 2019. Looking at his stats here, he put up a combined 23-15 record with a 3.65 ERA, a 1.19 WHIP, and about a strikeout per inning across those two seasons. He also had this innate ability to pitch better as the season wore on. In 2018, he was 9-1 with a 1.68 ERA and a .81 WHIP in 11 starts in the second half. And in 2019, he was 5-2 with a 2.83 ERA and a 1.23 WHIP in the second half, punctuated by a 1.85 ERA and a 1.09 WHIP in September. And just in the nick of time too, because after 2019, he was set to hit free agency for the first time. Now, in hindsight, it was kind of crazy for Zack Wheeler walking into free agency the year that he was, because he was stepping into an absolutely loaded free agent market, especially for starting pitchers. Names like Garrett Cole, Steven Strasburg, Hyunjin Ryu, Madison Bumgarner, and Dallas Keuchel were all on the board, all of whom had been all-star pitchers, in some cases multiple-time all-star pitchers, Cy Young contenders, and in the case of Dallas Keuchel, a Cy Young winner. Meanwhile, here comes Wheeler, a good pitcher who had yet to even make an all-star team that was looking to command some huge money. And he ended up getting it in the form of a 5-year, $118 million deal with, like I said, the Philadelphia Phillies. As far as the available pitchers that I mentioned, this was bigger than anyone on the market not named Cole or Strasburg. And as a Phillies fan, it was honestly kind of mind-blowing at the time. Even former Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen, who I know some Mets fans also hold a lot of disdain for, seemed to kind of take some parting shots at Wheels on the way out, basically affirming that he had 2 good half seasons with the Mets and that the Phillies paid him more than what they felt he deserved. And frankly, this is where we get into the part of the video where I start talking about why I feel like I owe him an apology, because at the time I felt a little question mark pop up above my head. Sorry, let me do this so you can see the question mark pop up above my head. There you go. Like, of course, I was happy that the Phillies signed a starting pitcher in general, because even though I have some fond memories of that 2019 Phillies team, despite how they ended the season, and fond memories of 2019 as a year in general, it was the last year before the pandemic, after all. That season, I had to sit through Nick Pivetta, I had to sit through late career Jake Arrieta, I had to try to be a truther for Vince Velasquez because of that 116 strikeout start he had in 2016. And hey, Mets fans, you know all about this, but I had to put up with 11 Jason Vargas starts. And that was 11 starts too many. So just having another guy alongside Aaron Nola and Zach Eflin was good news to me. But I, too, was in the boat that the Phillies were giving him a little too much money at the time. I really thought that they overpaid him when they signed him back then. Admittedly, while I had been keeping up with the Phillies during their bad eras, I wasn't keeping up with the rest of baseball enough, so at the time I was still kind of slowly getting back into knowing who the big stars were. But when I saw who Zack Wheeler was, I was concerned about giving a non-star pitcher like him $118 million for 5 years. But little did I know that that contract would be a stroke of genius that worked absolute wonders for the Phillies. Like, it was an absolute magical contract. Outside of a still strong 2022 season where he probably would have gotten some votes if he didn't miss some time with injuries, Zach earned Cy Young votes in all 4 other seasons of that contract, and he made the All-Star team in 2 of those years. Mind you, 2020 didn't have an All-Star game because of COVID, and he probably could have made it that year if there was one. Across the 5 years of this contract, he pitched to a 59-32 record, a 2.94 ERA, a 1.03 whip, and he put up 899 strikeouts and 829 in the 3rd innings. I honestly feel like since signing that contract and taking the mound for the first time as a Philly in 2020, you could possibly make the argument that Zack Wheeler has been the best pitcher in baseball in the last 5 years, and very few would look at you funny. I mean, not to say it's contested, because Corbin Burns is just as much in that conversation, and you can absolutely throw Garrett Cole in that conversation too. But I think picking Wheeler as the #1 best of the last 5 years wouldn't be too obscene. Given the combination of results and workload, Wheeler has absolutely been up there. Speaking of Corbin Burns, he and Wheeler battled for the Cy Young Award in 2021, as Wheels went 14-10 with a 2.78 ERA and a 1.01 whip, while leading the National League with 247 strikeouts and leading the majors with 213 1/3 innings pitched, 3 complete games, and 2 shutouts, one of which came on the day of Roy Halladay's number retirement, which felt all the more fitting and beautiful. He pitched like a 2-hit shutout and was like doing things as a pitcher that a Philly hadn't done since Roy Halladay's perfect game in 2010. So it almost felt like Doc had like his hand on Zack Wheeler's shoulder during that game. Both Wheeler and Burns received the same number of first place votes, but Burns won by 10 points. And while it's still hotly debated who was more deserving, ultimately to me it was just incredible to see Wheels pitching at that level and doing what he did in 2021. I'd honestly say this last season that he had was even better than that in some respects, as he went 16-10 with a 2.57 ERA, 224 strikeouts and 200 innings on the dot, while leading the National League with a .96 whip and 6.3 hits allowed per 9 innings. Once again, though, he finished second in Cy Young voting because Chris Sale decided to stay healthy enough to go full Space Jam this season. But even so, it was a magical year for Wheels that was an absolute joy to witness. I should also mention that since coming over to Philly, Wheeler has gotten to pitch in the postseason in each of the last 3 years, including the Phillies' beautiful run to the World Series in 2022. And even with a misstep or two, every pitcher has them, come on, Wheels has proven to be a big game pitcher and has absolutely lit it up in October. In 12 postseason games, 11 starts because he did pitch 1 game out of the bullpen. He's gone 4-3, a bit of an unlucky record I would say, but he's posted a disgusting 2.18 ERA, a .73 whip, and 77 strikeouts in 70 1/3 innings. It's what makes something like 2024's postseason frustrating, since he went 7 shutout innings and gave up just 1 hit, yet the Phillies still couldn't win the game for him. Yes, Mets fans, I know, point and laugh. Nevertheless, let me not get that upset. The ultimate point is that Wheels has gotten so good that he went from being signed in 2020 as a number 2 pitcher behind Aaron Nola to effectively usurping Nola as the team's ace, something I couldn't have seen coming when they signed him back then. His success even led the Phillies to re-up him before last season, signing him to a 3-year, $126 million extension to pitch from 2025 to 27, and pretty much keeping him in Phillies red for what could potentially be the rest of his career. And look, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know how the next 3 years will go. Obviously, I hope they go tremendously, and I hope Wheels is able to finally win a Cy Young award, but how he does over the next 3 years is not relevant to my reasoning for making this video. My reasoning for making this video is that in the context of the 5-year, $118 million contract that he signed in 2020 that was officially fulfilled at the end of last year, I was wrong. I wasn't sure I believed in the contract at the time. But Zack has gone and proven me wrong and has become, without question, one of the best pitchers in baseball across the last 5 years, if not the best. It's really something that I have seen some people start talking about Zack Wheeler as like a potential long shot Hall of Famer because of his performance with the Phillies. His performances remind me of the fun parts of baseball, and even though I can be an eternal cynic to the sport, and even though it's a sport that's designed to break your heart, it's these players that can make it a lot of fun to watch. I think I once heard former player Jerry Blevins say that life is much better when you believe, and sure, being a baseball fan requires a steady diet of delusion, but it makes it all the more satisfying when the big wins happen. So sometimes it's best to be optimistic. I say as I prepare to write 120 cynical tweets about the Phillies this season. Or I guess another way to look at this situation is with the classic, you never really know in baseball. All of these free agent contract signings can be crapshoots, and even the biggest slam dunks may end up going totally awry. We can talk about guys like Juan Soto and Corbin Burns and how their contracts they signed this offseason seem like slam dunks, but come on, the ink hasn't even dried on them yet. We can look at the 1-year, $21.5 million contract that Walker Buehler got and go, that's a lot for 1 year, holy overpay. But who knows? Maybe he goes out there, someone whispers in his ear that it's still 2021 and he wins the Cy Young Award this year. Maybe someone scribbles 2019 on Gleyber Torres' personal calendar and then he goes out there and puts up an MVP caliber season on this 1-year, $15 million deal that he signed with the Detroit Tigers. In baseball, you just never know. And it's that factor of not knowing that makes the game fun. I mentioned the Tigers and look at the run they had at the end of last year after being out of the playoff race in mid-August, seemingly. You just never know. Either way, I guess I could just close this out by saying Zack Wheeler, who isn't watching this video, I apologize for doubting you. Thank you for what you've given us Phillies fans over the last 5 years, and let's do it again for the next 3 years and hopefully finish that job and get the ring. If, you know, the Dodgers can stop signing everybody. I mean, seriously, they offered my dog a contract. 1 year and $80 million, $79 million of which is deferred. I shit you not when I say that while filming this video, they literally called me to offer a contract to this stuffed animal. 2 years and $50 million, all of which is deferred. Can't even keep a stuffed animal around with the Dodgers trying to poach everyone. They're playing Pokemon the way they gotta catch them all. Okay, anyway, yeah, that's everything I gotta say in this video about Zack Wheeler. Love the guy, happy to see the success that he's had with the Phillies. Hope he continues to have success over the next 3 years. Of course, this is all just my opinion on Zack Wheeler, I guess. I usually end my videos saying that, but a lot of this video wasn't even my opinion. I was telling you stats. And I guess I could say, what do you guys think of Zack Wheeler? General baseball fans, what do you think about him? But I guess I'll ask a few specific questions to specific baseball fans. First of all, to the Giants fans, since that's who he was drafted by, do you guys feel like you were better off without him, or do you guys wish you kept him? How do you guys feel about that? Mets fans watching, I know a lot of Mets fans have said that they wish they kept Wheeler and they know that he was the one that got away, but I guess I'll ask, did you guys think that when the Phillies signed Wheeler that he was going to become what he became now? Because again, I know I mentioned that I was dead wrong about him, but I feel like I heard some people say like, oh no, I totally expected him to break out. And then of course, Phillies fans, what's your favorite Zack Wheeler moment? Whatever your thoughts, opinions, and experiences are, leave them down in the comments below. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. Please, let's keep this civil. Like I said, I don't like to do the whole rivalry thing, so let's not be too asshole-ish, please. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe and support some of my other ventures that I have linked in the description, thank you. If not, it's no big deal. I totally understand. As for what's next, I don't know. I have some ideas, but I don't know which one I'm going to want to do next. Right now, I'm going to want to rest because I've been filming for about an hour and a half right now, and I can't see 2 feet in front of me, and I really need to go take a shower. It's like 3 in the morning. Either way, I'm sure I'll have some new videos soon. Either I'll start working on some of these other ideas I have, or maybe some other big gaming showcase will come up that I talk about. Either way, there will be new videos in the future, so stay tuned for them. But until next time, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. And also, go Birds.